So you're welcome back. This is Today with John and Helen, and we've had quite a session with our friend Okechukwu Pablo. So our second guest is a screenwriter, he's a movie director, and a media personality, Mr. Yomi Layinka. I find it difficult putting that Mr. in front of his name. So Yomi, please let's go back to the way it used to be.
Yomi Layinka.
Yes,
Yomi Layinka. Yomi Layinka is a founding member of the television service of Oyo State, that's TCOS, where he served as a producer. He went on to produce scores of television drama series on the network of the Nigerian Television Authority, including the sponsored Winds of Destiny. I'm sure you remember that. And the NNPC-sponsored Legacy, which introduced some of today's leading Nollywood stars, actually, into the business. Now, in the course of a career spanning about 4 decades, Yomi has directed and produced scores of radio and television programs, documentaries, advertisements, and training materials for the leading brands in Nigeria. Yomi, my good friend. Yomi is my friend.
See you.
So Yomi, thanks for joining us.
and John was my client.
Yes.
Okay.
You know,
And
Yomi,
Yes, I used
Yomi
to
is
produce
my good.
commercials for John's agency.
Excellent.
yeah. You see, when Yomi agreed to come on the program, right, I started playing back visuals of him in his old Santana
Oh boy.
coming to the office for briefs.
Oh Lord.
Santana.
You remember that Santana?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Oh, good old days.
So-
In the early 90s.
Yes, early 90s. Well, you're welcome once again, Yomi. Now
Thank you, John.
because of time, let's dive into it.
Yeah.
Now, entertainment, and that's what we're talking about. You know, it has no doubt grown into a huge and thriving business. Indeed, the value chain can only be best described as endless. Now, could you tell us some of the areas that have fed off this viable industry? So for a start.
Well, yes. I mean, to start with, just to give a context, like you said, it's a fairly huge industry globally and specifically in Nigeria. I mean, for instance, PriceWaterhouse predicted about 5 years ago that Nigeria was going to become one of the fastest growing media and entertainment industries in the world. As at 2016, 2017, the value of the Nigerian entertainment business, according to PriceWaterhouse, was about $5 billion. And, we know at that time, too, 3, 4, 5 years ago, the entertainment industry was contributing about 1.5 trillion naira value to our GDP. So it's a considerably big industry. And of course, the components of that industry, as you know, includes radio, television, movies, fashion,
Sports.
out-of-home entertainment, media, and so forth. The elements, and it's like a movie set, for instance. Even where you are, the people working on that set include producers, lighting engineers, sound people, fashion designers, or if you like, costumiers and makeup artists. So it's a considerably integrated industry that has several components to it. It's just when you watch a movie, for instance, at the end of a movie, you wonder whether you're watching another movie in terms of the credits that line it up. Sometimes 250, 400 people worked on a movie.
Yeah.
So it's a fairly huge industry. And it has key elements, as we say, entertainment and art reflects life. So art is like a potpourri of different professional trades and contributions, from writers to musicians to poster designers, artists, to, as I said, fashion designers and so forth. So it's a wide yet integrated industry in which several people find an opportunity for expression and, of course, for engagement in terms of economic livelihoods.
All right, thank you so much, and we have done well. Looking at the value chain created by the entertainment industry, which you have enumerated, one cannot say that this was accidental. Now, what do you think is responsible for this evolution? Our first guests, took us through how they started. Humble beginning, probably not too many people involved for the reason of financing. But as time went on, they started getting some level of sponsorship and partnership financially, and then it became better. What do you think is responsible for this evolution?
Well, let's understand that, interestingly, the Nigerian entertainment industry, as we probably already know, was driven largely by the creative entrepreneurship of young Nigerians who had to open the doors themselves. Government, unfortunately, did not play the lead role it ought to play. Well, you could also say that government already had established being in control then of broadcasting. So broadcasting was a platform, for instance, for most artists to demonstrate, especially performing artists who had opportunities to act in movies or television series or to score motion picture music or radio. Even radio provided opportunities, including as far back as the 60s. People like Fela was, as you know, a producer with Nigerian Broadcasting Service then. People like the late Steve Rhodes were on radio. So radio provided, and television provided, the basic platform for this engagement. But then, as I said, the young Nigerians went in, especially, again, in all of these, the key drivers are technology.
Sure.
Technology democratized access and capacity for expression. In the mid-'80s and late 80s and early 90s, we had a rush of technological innovations from VHS cameras, which were cheaper, unlike the Betacam or the other the bigger cameras that television stations use. So individuals could actually access these technologies, and then in the process, they domesticated. Rather than wait for the television stations, the individuals were able to do things. Progressively, people began to have access to laptops, and their laptops created a platform for them to create their own music, to create designs. And so technology has been a major drive and continues to drive the entertainment industry globally. Internet access, for instance, has also created an expansion in possibilities in terms of reach, and people are using that. And so I think, and of course, every success tends to create its own, impact on others, because then people see, oh, if he's doing well in this, I can do that. And then you have little competitions coming up, and then I can do better than this person. And I think that all of these expand the possibilities. And of course, as I said, gadgets and smartphones are now easier to access.
Yes.
Somebody mentioned, for instance, that with our iPhones, iPhone 6, iPhone 7, iPhone 8, people are making movies.
Sure.
Like the veteran movie maker, Tunde Kilani, often says that what has happened to the movie industry is that the technology has helped to democratize. Now with a little camera or a small piece of light or something, everybody can make a movie. So I think technology, of course, the app ecosystem also creates opportunities, because now you can do a lot of things with apps, send materials, and then streaming and all of that. So technology is at the heart of it.
Yes.
And then, of course, the expanded demand by audiences. Audiences want new things. And of course, the population of the world is increasing, especially the middle class and the younger people, who tend to feed on these technological gadgets. And of course, everybody wants some measure of entertainment after a hard day's work. So I think that mainly technology, of course, economic expansion, and as I said, the fact that it has created possibilities for people to be economically engaged. And so you don't have unlike before, I mean, when we were younger, anybody that said he wanted to go into music or movies, they thought he was a useless person or didn't have a career. He couldn't be a doctor, couldn't be a lawyer. But now, even parents are encouraging their kids to get into music and sports, you know. So the entertainment industry has created practical, opportunities for self-expression, for economic engagement, and of course to satisfy the needs of a burgeoning market of audiences globally.
Yeah, thank you, Yomi. Well, I agree with you that technology has played a key role in the development. Well, of course, without an enabling environment, all of this wouldn't even be possible. Now, what has been the role of the economy itself in this growth?
Well, yes. I mean, again, economy, the economy is a linkage of economies, if I may. And one fits on the other. I mean, let's give an example. The telecoms companies, even banks, in the earlier days before the telecoms companies got bigger and took more center stage in the use of entertainment as marketing tools. So the banks had to shoot commercials, the FCMG companies had to shoot commercials to promote their product, had to create events and road shows. And so these created economic opportunities and engagement. The companies were using the artists, and the artists were feeding off the companies. In other words, there was a symbiotic relationship that benefited both parties. And in the larger sense, I just mentioned that the Nigerian economy benefits up to 1.5 trillion naira value from the media and entertainment industry. That's significant. And yet, this is even done without real structure. You can then imagine if we had expanded or put in place proper economic management structures that ensures that the banks and investment community put money behind entertainment, and then the business management culture that makes sure that there are effective outcomes of returns on investment are there, and the discipline. We would have probably had a lot more economic value from the entertainment industry. But there is no doubt that the economy itself, in spite of, as I said, not so structured way in which it had happened, has played a significant role in the growth of the industry. I did mention earlier on that, for every industry that grows, just watch, you will notice that people come into that field when they see opportunities for self-fulfillment. I mean, artists now live in Lekki, they buy houses, they ride good cars, they can send their children to good schools because they make money. And so if they weren't making money, they probably won't have people coming in droves into that industry. And so certainly it's a profession, and like every other profession, it has economic value because it's also giving value to other members of that economic chain.
All right. Thank you. And because of this huge success and the opportunities that it has provided for a lot of people, both young and old, there are institutions coming up here and there, to provide a professional blueprint for more people to come on board. The Television College in Jos is there. We have the film corporations here and there. And NBC is also stepping up, with what you must do, what you cannot do in terms of sanitizing, the entertainment industry. And that's very pleasing to me. A few years ago, 2-3 years ago, I watched a drama piece on stage at the Muson Center put together by Bolanle Peters, and it was awesome. So when you talk of value chain, you can see the crowd, you know, the number of artists who came together as actors and actresses, you know, to put together that. The name is just skipping from my brain. So yes, that is an opportunity for a lot of us, you know, to plow in and make huge success. We also have the entertainment influencers everywhere. Many years ago, we heard of the girl who just from nowhere rose to prominence from the entertainment industry. So right now, let's look at the effect of the pandemic. You know, the pandemic is not over. It is here with us. And the entertainment industry, so to speak, probably went comatose for a while, you know.
Just like every
yes,
other
it's
thing.
taking a huge blow on the entertainment industry. Can you paint a full picture for us, you know, of this downturn and what it portends?
Well, as John quipped in, it affected everybody. Even now, we're still getting used to it. I think the first thing it did, of course, is that it took performing artists off the streets. They couldn't dance on the streets. They couldn't have road shows. They couldn't have, because of crowd control issues. And therefore, everybody got back onto their decks. There was that. What do we do now? How do we navigate ourselves out of this conundrum? But the creative spirit endures and will always get out of the water. And so we began to see people concentrate on areas where they had control. I mean, their laptops, for instance. And so we began to see the possibilities of doing more desk-oriented work like animation, editing, and so even movies were shot. Some I saw, I think on channels sometime, a producer, I think Obiloye, you know, talk about a movie he produced by Zoom, literally. You know, he actually had people in different areas in their living rooms act out scenarios, and he edited it together into a movie. In other words, it would challenge the creative ingenuity in all of us.
Yeah.
And more importantly, it's just as it has done to the workplace, it has created a new work culture and ecosystem. In other words, we will begin to see movies and entertainment pieces that were based on that. I imagine, for instance, that a lot of songwriters had more concentrated time to think and write songs. I would imagine, and we will begin to see the results of that in months and years to come. Fashion designers had time to concentrate and design things in their respective laboratories. But, you know, technology always solves some of these problems. And then we will begin to see how artists will leverage on the technological opportunities in streaming and all of that to compensate for the slowdown or the downturn. I mean, as we said, everybody was affected, but everybody is finding his way out now. University lecturers are finding better ways of more creative ways of teaching, using Zoom, using some other technologies. Medical doctors are doing the same thing. So artists and entertainment professionals would certainly find a way. They're the creative people.
Well, we also hope that the whole world will find a way
out
of the effect of this pandemic. Now, Yomi, we have just 30 seconds, and really, I want to ask you, where does this industry, this vibrant industry, where does it get its energy from? Because the now generation, that's the younger generation, wish to claim it as theirs.
Okay.
So where does the industry get its energy from?
It gets its energy from the past, because there's always a foundation. I did mention earlier on, and we all grew up knowing this, Village Headmaster, Kokro Dawn, Fela's music, radio
Baba
DJs
Salah.
of that era. Sorry?
Baba Salah.
Baba Salah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you know, Yoruba say something, there's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
What happens is we keep rebranding, repositioning, and remixing. You can see, we've seen how Fela has been remixed over and over again by the younger generation. In other words, they find inspiration in him. They find inspiration in the television dramas of old. Most of the early actors, even in the movie industry, you mentioned, I produced the first set, or directed the first set of the series that introduced Kanayo, Richard Mufeda Mikio, Zach
Oji?
No, Amata, he's the younger Amata.
Okay, Fred Amata.
Fred, not Zach. Zach is the older
the
Amata,
one,
my
yes.
friend.
Fred.
You know, Fred. So what I'm saying is that they had their foundations in television, in terrestrial television. Now they've moved on to movies. So they cannot deny their roots.
Yeah.
So I think, yes, young energy feeds on the past. And that's how it should be. The young people today are not going to be young forever, but they would also open new paths that younger people, their own children and young grandchildren will follow through. So it's a symbiotic, connected chain. And the better if it's not broken, because the younger people must recognize where they're coming from and pay appropriate homage to it, and now use it as a leverage to move into the future, so that it's like a relay race.
Okay.
You pass the baton, the other person pass the baton. It doesn't, nobody should drop the baton.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Yomi. Thank you for your input here. And not to forget the Alibabas, not to forget the Sheilos and the comedians, you know, and what the Bumi Davids, what the Bumi Davids came up with, you know, the live shows, annual live shows, you know, that would pack a whole lot of both young and old, you know, to be entertained in one environment. Indeed.
But it would be disingenuous of all of them, not to recognize or remember Baba Salah and Co.
Yes.
As their forerunners.
Just like we remember Yomi Layinka and Co. And we want to say thank you.
Thank you very much.
We want to say thank you for all.
Thank you for your time.
We want to say thank you for all that you've done for the industry, the entertainment industry, and we hope to have you again sometime soon on this program. Thanks for coming, Yomi.
Okay. Yeah, and so if you've been taken back beautifully, if you have learned so much about the entertainment industry, we'll drop in a few names here that have been favorites of a lot of us. You need to stay on. Don't move a muscle, because there's more to come on this show with Pharaoh Owotomo, and I'm sure she will be looking at entertainment and the economy with another. Okay, we had Yomi. This is Yemi Amusa. Amushon. Okay, and if you know, when Pharaoh comes on, is a blast. Please don't go away. Stay with us.